All right. I'm just waiting on some builds. And so while I'm doing that, here's just more. I keep getting crap from you philosophy people. And I don't know. I know for the most part I don't really like philosophy. I like logic. I like that kind of thing. But it seems like you guys are just like, I don't know. You're just word salading at each other all the time. And I keep getting crap about the modal ontological argument. I just think it's all right. Let me shut this thing. Okay, sorry. I keep hearing how I'm wrong about Plantinga. This Alvin Plantinga guy drives me nuts. I think he's just completely bonkers. I still don't have a really good grasp on what the modal ontological, any of the ontological arguments. It sounds to me, and people keep saying I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like I imagine this thing is super cool, so therefore it must be real. So I found this thing from from Cameron. It looks like Capturing Christianity. 11 ontological arguments from Anselm to Nagasawa. Let's see what this is. Oh, that's really loud. Sorry. I don't know how the mix is on for you guys.
Ontological arguments. So this one, we're on argument number 21, and this one is from Anselm. So I think it works best because it seems like you've got something to say about like every single one of these. So I feel like it's best if you just read them. What do you think?
Okay, well, some of them are pretty simple, so I could just say, hey, why don't you take this one when we come to a pretty simple one. And in fact, rather than go through this sort of more faithful to the text version of Anselm's argument.
I wish you would stay on the text because then we can read it and see what... Oh, okay. Let's see. Let me turn that down.
And this is the classic ontological argument from Anselm in Proslogion 2. Let's just skip that one and go to the sort of simplified version next.
Okay.
There we go.
Is that what this one is? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll read this one. A being then which no greater can be conceived exists at least in the mind.
Let's restate that. The greatest possible being that can be conceived exists at least in the mind. Is that true? I guess that could be true.
Premise 2, it is greater to exist in reality than to exist only in the mind.
It's greater to exist in reality than to exist only in the mind. By what? I would rather mosquitoes existed in my mind than in real life. I don't want what do they carry? Not smallpox. Malaria. I don't want malaria, okay? I don't want West Nile. I don't want dengue or whatever else they carry. To me, that's greater to not exist. It depends how you... this greater thing seems really subjective. Let's see what number 3 is.
3, so a being which no greater can be conceived exists not only in the mind but also in reality.
So number 3 is... the way they word this is so crap. Let's see. The greatest possible... If you were to name the greatest possible thing according to their definition of greatness, it wouldn't only exist in the mind, but also in reality.
And then the conclusion, so God exists.
So God exists. So here we go. The greatest pizza in the world exists in my mind. This pizza is 10 pounds, but I can eat it without any like lactose intolerance, and it won't make me gain any weight or any fat or any cholesterol. It would be greater if that pizza existed in reality so that I could eat it. If you were going to talk about the greatest pizza like that, it would have to exist both in my mind but also in reality. Therefore, this pizza exists. Here it is in my hand right now. Look at it. Look at this pizza. Nom, 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 nom. This pizza ain't here. You guys are nuts. You keep attacking me on any place I try and ask you about this ontological argument. You're free to click the join the chat and tell me I'm wrong, but you always seem to run away when it's time to have a conversation. Just tell me I'm stupid and I'm not getting it. Let's see about another one of these arguments.
There you go. Classic Anselmian ontological argument.
This is ridiculous. If you guys
this is actually the argument, the version of the ontological
nuts.
argument that most atheists on YouTube actually target, which is interesting, as we're going to see, because there's so many different versions.
Because it's the one you guys keep putting out there. Let's see your different version. Cameron just threw it down that we're going to have a much better version now. So let's see what that is, Cameron.
Attack the oldest and the easiest to respond to.
Stop talking about it. Let's hear what the better one is.
Okay, so jumping forward from Anselm to Descartes, it is a famous quote by Descartes, which is that I clearly see that existence can no more be separated from the essence of God than can its having 3 angles equal to 2 right angles be separated from the essence of a triangle, or the idea of a mountain from the idea of a valley. So there is no less absurdity in thinking of a God, a supremely perfect being, who lacks existence, than in thinking of a mountain without a valley.
I don't know how you define valley, but I know lots of mountains that don't have valleys. At least we wouldn't call them valleys. I don't know. Maybe you guys are using a different definition of valley. This is just a bold assertion. I can clearly see that existence can no more be separated from the essence of God. They're saying that it would be just as ridiculous to say that a triangle doesn't have 3 sides as this God doesn't exist. Okay, I can use the exact same thing with my pizza. I can clearly see that the existence of my 10-pound, not fat-causing pizza can no more be separated from reality than a 4-sided square could have 3 sides. I mean, that's just a claim. You got to bring evidence. There is zero evidence in this. This one is nonsense. Cameron, you just said that we attack the easiest one of these to go after. This is even easier. This is absolutely stupid. If you're convinced by this, you're a bozo. I think you're just messing with people to get YouTube clicks, though, because I don't believe you're this stupid. I've seen you operate cameras before, and that takes some more brains.
And so he gives this argument. Premise 1. That'd be next slide there.
Sorry. There we go.
Yeah, if I cannot conceive of X without Y, then Y belongs to the nature of X.
No. Just because you don't know something doesn't mean it's true. I don't know, therefore X. No. If I cannot conceive of X without Y, then Y belongs to the nature of X. If you cannot conceive, that's an argument from ignorance. Isn't that a textbook argument from ignorance? Or, let's see. I mean, I'm not the philosopher here. You guys should know this. The argument from ignorance may be variously expressed in language. In general, is an argument from a single premise which states that there is a lack of knowledge, proof, or evidence that P is true to the conclusion P is false. I don't know. This looks disgusting. Let me find a better example. Argument from English, simple. Wikipedia. Okay. It says something is true because it has not been proved false. I don't think, is that an argument from English? I thought that the argument from ignorance was like, if not A, therefore B. Or I can't conceive of, what is it Richard Dawkins calls the argument from personal incredulity? I don't know. This first premise is garbage. Just because you can't believe something. Let's see, number 2 is.
2, I cannot conceive of a supremely perfect being without existence.
Just because you can't think of something, hey, people didn't think of how to make computers until very recently. That doesn't mean that computers can't exist. I don't know what you're saying. This is stupid. This is, it's funny, because this is the I think, therefore I am guy, which is kind of a profound thing, but I think that's him. Is that who Descartes is? He's the guy who said that, right? I don't know. Maybe he should have quit then.
So, existence belongs to the nature of a supremely perfect being.
Therefore, existence belongs to the nature of a supremely perfect being. Okay. My pizza, man, can you, seriously, anybody out there, can you describe a better pizza than I'm talking about? Now, obviously, it's going to have Canadian bacon and pineapples on it. So just go with that. Right? I can't conceive of a better one. Therefore, it must exist. You guys are nuts. This is the stupidest argument.
4, if existence belongs to the nature of a supremely perfect being, then a supremely perfect being exists. 5, a supremely perfect being exists.
Okay, so this is absolutely ridiculous. Do I have to go on with this? This is some guy. Look, just because if you lived 1,000 years ago or whatever, where you guys thought the Earth was flat and the Earth, the sun goes around the Earth or whatever, you can be forgiven for having some stupid thoughts. I mean, you're more concerned about eating, but the pisser for me is that these guys get paid right now, American taxpayer money, to teach this crap in colleges. Kids go into debt for the rest of their lives to institutions that teach this like it's worth something. I mean, let's just go on.
More or less included because of its historical importance. And I should note that Spinoza and Leibniz also had their own spins on the ontological argument, but their versions look pretty similar to Descartes' just outlined.
So you accused us of attacking an easy one. This is way easier. This is stupid. This is absolutely stupid. This is a guy who says, I can't imagine something, therefore something else. This is ridiculous. Get out of here.
So let's go ahead and move on.
Okay.
Now, just if you're interested in the history here, it's interesting that most philosophers thought the Anselmian argument we just covered just was the ontological argument until it was around the 1960s. Malcolm, what was his first name? Was it Ian Malcolm?
I'm the wrong person. Yeah, I'm the wrong person to ask. Sorry.
Malcolm published a paper where he argued that there's a distinct ontological argument separate from the one we just covered, which is more plausible and it's better. And
well, I hope it's. What do you mean by more plausible? How about plausible at all? It was completely implausible. So let's get to some plausibility here.
This is in the literature. It's called. It's kind of referred to as Malcolm's bombshell argument, where he launched discussion of Anselm's other argument in Proslogion 3, not the argument in Proslogion 2. So we can skip the more complicated formulation and go straight to the simplified formulation, where Plantinga and others sort of distill the Anselm's other argument down into this. Either God's existence is logically impossible or it is logically necessary.
No. How do you get there? Either my pizza's existence is logically impossible. I don't know if is it logically impossible for it not to cause any weight gain? It's just implausible in this particular situation. Or it is logically necessary. I think that necessary means a very specific thing in philosophy, and I think these guys are trying to smuggle that in because, obviously it's not logically necessary regardless. Wouldn't it be logically necessary that A is A and A is not A? That sounds logically necessary. Just because something is not impossible doesn't mean it's necessary. I think this is the philosophy definition of necessary, but in that case, you shouldn't be using it in this context, I don't think. Hey, you keep going to chapel because you get to eat the bread and drink the wine, man. What are you doing? Plus, there's I don't know if it's oh shoot! Which argument did you use? That's pretty funny. This I mean, I'm not going to pick on all Christians for this. This is I'm picking on these idiots who think really. I don't even care who believes this. It's the fact that this crap is being. I don't know if you know, but people are going into extreme debt for the rest of their lives, being this college is the only way thing over here in America. And we have people that are being paid with that money, because a lot of this money comes from taxpayers, or these are taxpayer secured loans. We have people who are being paid to push this crap. This is where your money's going when it goes to college. And this is what pisses me off. I mean, this is, that I don't see the really stupid thing about, if you're talking about like religious people and this ontological thing, don't tell me there's a single person out there who believes, who became a Christian or became a Muslim or became a Jew or whatever because of the ontological argument. I don't believe it. I don't believe a single one of you. I think these are things that you say after you already believe it and you want to convince somebody else. But nobody came to this stuff through this stupid argument. People are smarter than that. They came because, well, for the most part, they grew up in it. For other part, they might have had a personal experience. There's lots of reasons people do things, and it's not necessarily stupid. But this is necessarily stupid. So this is just nonsense. Okay, so let's go on to this. So either God's existence is logically impossible or is logically necessary. I don't believe you. You got to prove that.
If God's existence is logically impossible, the concept of God is contradictory.
Contradictory to what? There may be a special philosophy meaning of contradictory there. If God's existence is logically impossible, I don't see how, just because something's not logically impossible doesn't mean that it's real. A flying horse is not logically impossible. It's just not real.
The concept of God is not contradictory. So God's existence is logically necessary.
Okay, so a concept of a pizza that doesn't make me gain weight is definitely not, I mean, what is it by saying not contradictory? It's not logically impossible. That's for damn sure. In fact, I bet you we create something like that in just a couple of years here. So the pizza is logically necessary? I don't know. This is stupid. Do I got to keep going on with this, guys?
You see here,
remember the claim earlier that Cameron Bertuzzi, whatever his name is, he claimed that we attacked the weakest one of these arguments. This is a stupid argument right here. So he like threw down. That was just slimy. Like, you don't go, oh man, you took the easy way out. Here's the real ones. And then he puts these stupid ones that are even worse. These are worse, man. Come on.
This ontological argument is starting to push into more contemporary terrain, which we'll get into.
This is why I always tell people, like, you think your mic preamps sound different? Bring your best evidence, not your worst evidence. Bring your best one and put it first. Let's do an ABX test, and then when you pick that mic preamp out of the rest of them, we shall have no problem, right? Why are you bringing your crap arguments here? This is crap. You gonna tell me I'm picking on the weaklings here? You're bringing crap. This is crap.
Okay.
Hartshorn. Now, he had his own formulation of Anselm's other argument, and it's amusing that the
amount of time that people spend on this stupid argument, it's crazy. Look at all these are all, I guarantee these guys get paid. I guarantee by the time you're getting into the late 20th century, these are all people that are getting paid taxpayer money to push this crap. You philosophers out there who keep giving me crap about this, come defend your stuff. You guys are like, oh, I'm not stupid enough to be religious, but you're too dumb to understand philosophy. Like, well, you just insulted everybody there, and you're still wrong. So let's hear it. Show me where I'm wrong. Come on. Yeah, religion is just a way to control the masses for sure. But I mean, this is just stupid. I'm not going to peg religious people with this stupid thing. This ontological argument is just dumb. I mean, just plain dumb.
Literature. Hartshorn actually published a paper, or was a book, where he said, no, there are these two distinct arguments in Anselm.
Well, let's see who this guy is. It's going to kill me if he was like some college professor or something. Hartshorn. Wow, he's born in 1897. Jeez. An American philosopher who concentrated primarily on the philosophy of religion and metaphysics, but also contributed to ornithology. All right, so he's a birder. I give you some points for that. He developed the neoclassical idea of God and produced a modal proof for the existence of God. There we go. Is that the modal ontological argument? That was the development of Anselm of Canterbury's ontological argument. Oh my God. Process theology. So let's see. After Hartshorne worked at Harvard University, at University of Chicago, Emory University, University of Texas. I guarantee tax money went into this nonsense. University of Frankfurt, University of Melbourne. No, that's okay. You guys pay for that crap. Kyoto University. American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Well, you know, this is why I have these objections. This whole thing about, okay, when you guys talk about modal logic and stuff, is modal philosophy, is modal logic, is that what it's called, modal logic? Is that even a useful thing? Like, is it used for anything besides these stupid defining things into existence type of thing? I don't know. I'd like to know if modal logic is really useful for anything. Let's look at it. I might come back to this, but I don't want to go on for forever. If a perfect being exists, it exists necessarily. Hey, my perfect pizza. Oh, does it exist? Wait, if it exists, it exists necessarily. Is that a tautology, or is that? See, this is what I don't like about philosophy. It makes it sound like total nonsense is true. If a perfect being exists, it exists necessarily. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the perfect thing, but if you have a son, well, if it exists, it exists. I don't know. It sounds like a tautology to me. Either a perfect being exists necessarily or not. I don't know about necessarily, because let's say you have a son, or you don't have a son. You could have a son, but you don't have to have a son. Does it necessarily? If not, then necessarily a perfect being does not exist necessarily. I don't think you can show that. I think maybe these are philosophy terms, not logical terms. So either a perfect being exists necessarily, or necessarily a perfect being does not exist necessarily. This is like, if you went to the Deepak Chopra word salad generator, this is the kind of crap you get out. If necessarily a perfect being does not exist necessarily, then necessarily a perfect being does not exist. Either a perfect being exists necessarily, or necessarily a perfect being does not exist. What the? It's not the case that necessarily a perfect being does not exist. It's possible that a perfect being exists. A perfect being exists necessarily. This is just saying that I think this thing is cool, so it must exist. You're full of crap. Okay, I just want to go to this Alvin Plantinga thing. Yeah, here we go. So this is the one I really get mad about, because this guy seems like a total chode bozo to me, and everybody says that I'm just not deep enough to get it. Maybe I'm thick. I don't know. Let's see.
Alvin Plantinga's modal ontological argument is probably the best argument for the existence of God.
All right, so we just heard it. It's probably the best argument for the existence of God. I don't believe you. Somehow, I mean, if you really, I don't think you think that's the best argument. I don't believe you that you even think what you're saying. But, principle of charity, let's just take you at your word. So let's hear that again.
Alvin Plantinga's modal ontological argument is probably the best argument for the existence of God.
Alvin Plantinga. So this is another guy. I think this guy gets paid by tax money. Alvin Plantinga's modal ontological argument is an irrefutable logical argument for the existence of God. Yet many people seem to have a hard time understanding it. This video tries to simplify the argument so the average person can understand it using Craig's work. Is this like gaslighting? Like, hey, if you don't get it, you're too stupid. It says this is irrefutable. So does that mean that every single philosopher who understands logic is now a theist of some sort? Because if it's irrefutable, that's exactly what would happen, right? Let's hear what this is.
It uses the laws of modal logic and acts similar to a mathematical proof. This is probably why a lot of people have a hard time understanding it and simply dismiss it.
Okay, more insulting of people who are too smart to fall for this crap, honestly. Let's get to it.
There are many great videos on the internet right now that give a great analysis of the ontological argument. Yet many people ignore these videos because they find them too confusing. In this video, I'm going to try to articulate the argument in an easy way to understand.
Okay, I want you guys following along at home to show me where I'm wrong. That it's my claim is that this argument just says, hey, I think this thing is really cool, therefore it exists. Or I'm going to say this thing is super badass, therefore it must exist. Show me where I'm wrong about that interpretation.
Because if you're a theist, then it's important to understand this argument, because when understood correctly, it is impossible to refute. If you don't believe
it's
in
impossible to refute. So everybody who understands logic believes him. So I don't believe him because I don't understand logic. That is the claim. It's impossible to refute, okay? Let's see how impossible this is to refute.
God, then it would probably be a good idea to understand it, so you don't appear foolish by misunderstanding it.
Nope, here we go.
To
Insult
start,
him again.
here's how the modal ontological argument works. Premise 1. It is possible that God exists.
Do we know that? It could be possible. I don't know that it's impossible. But if you really think about it, you don't know what's possible. Some things seem possible. Like it's probably impossible to have a married bachelor just because that's the way we define it. Or a square circle or a round triangle. It's possible. I'm not sure. Let's just say that it's not. We haven't shown it impossible that a God exists. I'll grant that. I don't know that it's possible, but it could be.
Premise 2. If it is possible that God exists, then God exists in some possible worlds.
No. I know that in modal ontology, modal logic, possible worlds means something different than you would think that it means. But remember, this guy is saying that he's simplifying it so that we can understand it. You're just claiming that just because it's possible that something is true, it must possibly exist in some world. You'd have to bring some evidence for that. I don't believe you. I would grant that if it's possible for my magic pizza to exist, then my magic pizza could possibly exist in some possible world. Or you could define a world, a possible world, because remember, this isn't a real world. This is a possible world. You could define a possible world as a world in which my magic pizza existed. Does that mean that it's is that does still yet just is this? We don't know that world is possible, though. We don't know. How do we know that world is possible? I would say that you would use the word conceptual. Maybe possible and conceptual are way too different, because if possible means that it absolutely is a possibility, then no, we don't know that it's possible that the God exists. We also don't know that it possibly exists in some possible worlds. We don't know that that's a possibility. A possibility is not a concept, right? It's a possibility. And so if it's impossible, like I could say, if this is as wrong as a square circle or a married bachelor, then no, premise 2 wouldn't be true. So I could say, if it's conceptual, conceivable that a God exists, then it's conceivable that God exists in some conceivable world. I can say that. I don't think either of these first two premises are sound or valid or whatever.
Premise 3. If God exists in some possible worlds, then God exists in all possible worlds.
No. If God exists in some possible worlds, why? Think of how many times I could have just slipped a little bit further off that half pipe and not been here anymore. If we had like some universe determining roll of the dice, there may be one universe where I didn't catch my peg on the coping and I went right over, snapped my neck, and that was the end of me. So, I mean, that's definitely a possibility, right? Or is it? I mean, if it's a deterministic universe, maybe that's not a possibility, blah, 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 blah. But if this is what we're meaning by possible, then I wouldn't still be alive in another world. So, no. Premise 3 is absolutely wrong.
Premise 4. If God exists in all possible worlds, then God exists in the actual world. And premise 5. If God exists in the actual world, then God exists.
Okay, so there we go. Exactly where I was getting to. Because I can imagine it, it must be real. That's really what this comes to. If God exists in all possible worlds, then God exists in the actual world. Philosophers, come tell me why I'm wrong about that. I'm serious. We keep hearing how wrong I am. Come show me. I don't know. I say you guys are nuts. I say you guys defending Plantinga are nuts. Come prove me wrong. Come prove me wrong by actually explaining it to me, not just telling me I'm stupid and then running away, as if you were some kind of like Facebook cakewalk moderator who, I never said you owed me an apology for all the other dumb crap you did, but for lying about what I said about one of the developers, yeah, now you owe me an apology. So, yeah, I'm putting you in the same category as these idiots here. So, suck it. Yeah, I don't know. This is just stupid. Let me see if it's even worth going on.
Now, if you're like me when you first heard this, you're probably asking, well, wait, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
The logic of some of those premises doesn't add up.
Good, thank you.
That's okay, because we're going to look at it closer so you can understand it.
All right. I'm going to understand it now. So, you know what? Chances are, since I don't know anything about philosophy, I'm about to get proven wrong, and I'll have to eat it. So, let's see.
First, you should understand that when philosophers say a possible world...
There we go. So we're going to context switch. This is like when they say faith. Most of the time they use it. When they say it, they mean you pretending to know stuff you don't know, and then they talk about your faith of sitting in a chair. One's backed by evidence and prior observation, and one's backed by absolutely nothing. And they will context switch in order to win arguments, but they don't really win anything. Okay, so let's see what a possible world is.
Understand it.
Because if a possible world is conceptual, then that's one thing. It's conceivable that God exists. It's conceivable, but then that you cannot possibly make it premise 3 definitely couldn't be true. Premise 4, forget completely. And without premise 4, premise 5 is useless. So let's see again.
First, you should understand that when philosophers say a possible world, they mean a hypothetical situation. It is generally a way for philosophers to test an idea, to see if it's logical, by asking, could it exist in a possible world like ours? However, the one thing people seem to misunderstand the most in the argument is how God is defined. Some atheists say we're just imagining God into existence.
Yes.
Like this clever bunch.
So here's my proof that a unicorn exists. And I actually wrote this passage. So let's define a unicorn as a magical equine being that has one horn and exists. By the above definition, such a being must exist. Therefore, a unicorn exists.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the ontological argument.
It's very hard to believe that there are people that use that.
Yeah.
But there are.
Yeah, now, these guys may be meathead SJWs at this point. That looks like, is that Tracy Harris right there? I think so. And I think that was Russell Glassert. So yeah, these guys may be meathead SJWs with their own stupid religion. But they're smart enough to get past this ontological argument. I don't see how what Russell just said right there is different than what inspiring philosophy is claiming.
The fact that the idea is there, so I can believe that I'm green and polka dotted.
Apparently.
Okay.
As long
Yes, apparently.
So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am green with purple polka dots.
Uh-huh.
And since I have stated that, therefore it must be true.
Since you can imagine
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the problem. They are falling into the typical error of misunderstanding how God is defined. And because
Whoa. How do you wait, why does this okay, I'm just gonna go with you here. Let's see.
of their ignorance, they are concluding that the argument doesn't work. So we need to look at how God is actually defined and how it differs from how you would define a unicorn. Now there are 3 ways to define a being or an entity in the ontological argument. An entity can either
Hold on real quick. Yes.
Is there something wrong with 23? I'm putting it up on the soundboard. Is it?
I don't know. Is it plugged in?
I was like, I had it flipped over. Maybe show me this, and then after you want to come back in and do that.
Yeah, have her show me. Okay, sorry about that. This is a working school and a working studio, so problems come up. So let's see. So where are we? So this has to do with the way the gods are defined, and this is going to make this all make sense.
either be impossible, which means it exists in no possible worlds. An example would be a square circle.
Okay.
An entity can be contingent, which means it exists in some possible worlds, like a unicorn. A unicorn could exist in some possible world.
Could it? Could a unicorn exist in some possible worlds? I think you got to prove that. But wait. So could a unicorn exist in a hypothetical world? Yes. But then that would be going back into imagining God into existence, which you just said was not right. We don't know that a unicorn could exist in a possible world.
Worlds, but not in others. Last, an entity can be necessary, which means it has to exist in all possible worlds.
Well, let's hear an example of necessary.
Now, what do we mean when we say something necessarily has to exist in all possible
you.
worlds? Well, examples of necessary entities are numbers, absolute truths, and shape definitions.
Is that true? Are shape absolute truths? What is an absolute truth? I don't think, I don't really like this necessary. I don't think this matters though. So if this thing is, I hope he's going to tie this together, because none of this actually means that this first premise is true. It doesn't matter how you define that God. If it's the same as my pizza, it's exactly what Russell just said, actually. So if you're going to say that possible, it means hypothetical, then you can't get there. That's imagining it into existence. Let's.
For example, take the number 2.
Okay.
No one created it, it just exists necessarily. It can't not exist. Take a shape definition for another example.
Is that true though? Could 2 not exist? Like if there's nobody to conceive of 2, and if there weren't 2 things, could 2 actually? What does it mean to exist then? Oh man, see now you're making it sound like a solipsist.
Such as a square must have 4 sides. A square cannot exist with only 3 sides.
That's by definition. We're defining a square as something that has 4 sides. So again, this is not helping you.
Because that would be logically incoherent in any
Don't care.
possible world. So a necessary entity is something that cannot be false or fail to exist in any possible world.
Okay, but so how is your God? So you're saying, okay, so prove that God has to exist.
Therefore, necessarily, it has to exist in all possible worlds. So when we talk of God in this argument, we are saying that if he exists, he would have to be a necessary entity, because God is defined as a maximally great being. And a maximally great being is defined as a being that possesses all qualities that are better to...
the maximally great being exists by definition. Watch this, okay? If he says that, this video is over. You guys understand this. So he's about to slip in, I think. I actually, he can't be this slimy. But if he were super slimy, he'd be about to slip in that a maximally great being exists because I imagine it exists. And then he had the gall to say that Russell was wrong about saying that you were defining your imagination into existence. Here we go. Let's see.
To have, which we define as great-making properties. Other examples are love, wisdom, and power. A maximally great being would also have to have these properties to their maximal extent. He would also possess no qualities that are bad to have, such as imperfection or corruption. These are defined as lesser-making properties. But most of all, he would have to possess the great-making property of necessity, because being necessary is a property that would be better to have. Now, looking back at the terms we defined earlier, if God was contingent, he wouldn't be maximally great, because he would only exist in some worlds, and would be less than great than if he existed in all worlds. Now, the idea of God being necessary is consistent with Scripture. Colossians 1:16.
There we go. There we go. Okay? Do I have to say any more? He did exactly what he chided Russell for saying that he was doing. He defined the God into existence. You guys are nuts. All you modal ontological meatheads out there. You guys keep giving me crap, but come back your crap up. I keep having these shows. I keep streaming. I keep inviting you on, and you guys keep talking. You keep leaving comments and crap, but you won't come on when I'm on. But what do I have to do to get you on and show me how stupid I am? So go ahead. You guys are wrong. This guy just defined his God into existence. This is not a sophisticated argument. This isn't something that American taxpayers should be paying for. This isn't something that kids should go into debt for the rest of their lives to have preached at them. This is idiocy. This is as dumb as critical race theory or SJWism or any other nonsense colonial cultural appropriation, patriarchy, malarkey. This is garbage. You guys are wrong, you philosophers that spend all day long word salading each other all day and then tell me I'm stupid for not getting how dumb this thing is or how sophisticated theology this is. You guys are full of crap. Come prove me wrong. I'm going to go do some actual work.